All right, hello everybody. Again, this is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to the Fantasy Sports Boss Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Wednesday, August 2nd, so got another show for you today where we're going to go over all the news of the last couple of days since the last podcast. Plus, we have real football tomorrow. The New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers, although Rodgers won't be playing, are going to be playing the Cleveland Browns in the Hall of Fame game. And you know, this is a big weekend for the Jets because Darrelle Revis and Joe Flacco both going into the Hall of Fame. And now we actually have live football to watch and discuss. Of course, nothing really fantasy relevant will come out of this one. Although last year at this time, Josh Jacobs playing in the Hall of Fame game sent off a whole bunch of hysteric tweets, of which I certainly was a part of, thinking that the Raiders were just showcasing him for an eventual trade, and that they were going to, go with Jahmyr White, because why would you play Jacobs in a meaningless game? He might get hurt, blah, blah, blah. Well, what did Jacobs do? He was arguably the fantasy football MVP, the best value of the draft, went absolutely ballistic, running and catching the football, and now he's holding out with no end in sight, with whispers he could hold out for the entire season. But before I get into the show further, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the notification, and the like button. So I was thinking about doing a live stream today. I'm going to hold off on the live stream until tomorrow. Actually, there will be a live stream the next 2 days, Football Friday, this Friday plus tomorrow. So make sure you have that notification bell hit so you know what time I'm going to be going live tomorrow. Now, in terms of today, wanted to discuss the fantasy football players that are confounding me the most in terms of I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them. Am I going to be aggressive drafting them? Am I going to fade them? I really am right in the middle on these guys. So I'm going to share that with you in a little bit. Because there truly are some guys I just don't know how I'm going to play it in the draft. All right. And then also, of course, I'm going to discuss the news of the day, which I guess right away we could kick off some recent rumors about the New England Patriots possibly making a play for Jonathan Taylor. Adam Schefter was reporting that there are multiple teams that will, at least kick the tires on a Taylor trade, which is interesting to me because, when Austin, like I said the other day in the podcast, when Austin Eckler put himself out there with permission from the Chargers, he was looking for a new contract himself. When he put himself out there looking for a trade, nobody was really interested. Nothing came of it. So now I do know that with Saquon Barkley, two teams did call the Giants, and the Giants said, no, we're not trading him. So I guess in that sense, the fact that Taylor, 4 years younger than Eckler, Barkley 2 years younger than Eckler, maybe that has to do with there being more of a market for them. But the New England Patriots have made no secret of their desire to get another running back to complement Ramondre Stevenson. So Ramondre Stevenson remains a very risky investment if you're drafting this week or the next couple of weeks. They've been connected to Dalvin Cook. They've been connected to Leonard Fournette. They've been connected to Ezekiel Elliott, Darrell Henderson. They brought all of these guys in for workouts and haven't signed any of them. Dalvin Cook himself still has not signed. He left New York. The assumption all along was, especially after Aaron Rodgers restructured his contract, that Cook was not going to leave New York until he signed on the dotted line, and it didn't happen. So I'll touch on the Cook thing in a second. But back to Jonathan Taylor. So, you have the owner continually saying he's not going to trade him. I just don't see any other avenue. Irsay could be vindictive and just, not trade him, just not do it. What the problem for Irsay is he doesn't want his player telling him what to do. And I understand that to a point. He's the team owner. Taylor is an employee saying, this is what I want, you got to do it. And you know what? A part of me understands Irsay saying, bullshit. I don't have to take orders from you. I'm the owner of the team. So I get that. I do. But on the other hand, Irsay owes it to his fans. He owes it to his rookie quarterback who could use all the help he can get. And his general manager, his coach, he's got a new coach. He owes it to these individuals and the fan base as a whole to remedy this situation before the season. I mean, listen, the Colts, my God, they do the summer blockbuster like no other organization. Andrew Luck's retirement, now this. And I remember that Andrew Luck thing. I had just drafted him too in a league that year, and he retired. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But again, Jonathan Taylor, we need clarity on this. The sooner the better. Right now, Jonathan Taylor's fantasy stock is being held hostage. Josh Jacobs' fantasy stock is being held hostage. Ramondre Stevenson's stock is being held hostage. Breece Hall, same thing. All of these guys are in limbo. Even Tony Pollard, because I still think Dallas is going to be a player for Jonathan Taylor. I bet you they're one of those teams that Schefter was referring to in terms of maybe making contact with Indy to see what the price is. Because you know Jerry Jones loves stars, and Jonathan Taylor is a star. There's no doubt about it. He's coming off a down year, but 2 years ago, he was the best running back in football. So, again, if you're drafting now, with the Colts, Taylor was a late first-round pick. Now he's dropping into the second round. If this keeps going on, he'd probably drop into the third round. And the Colts have nobody behind him. They have nobody behind them. They just lost Zach Moss with for 6 weeks with a broken arm. And he's nothing to write. You can't go into the season with him as your starting running back. No way. So, is this where Ezekiel Elliott signs? Is this where Leonard Fournette signs? You have to think one of these guys, hell, Dalvin Cook, you have to think one of these guys are going to sign with Indy. And if Breece Hall, and here, now we'll get to Dalvin Cook. With Dalvin Cook leaving New York without a contract, all of a sudden now Breece Hall looks really attractive to me again. I'm down with that early third round price tag. And I told you, I have the second pick in my draft in one of my leagues. And it's a 10-team league. So coming back, the end of round 2, I'm going to take Jalen Waddle if he's there. But then the beginning of round 3, I'm probably going to take, at pick 22, I would take Breece Hall if he was there. You'd have to. He's that good. I mean, I know coming off the ACL, it could be a little bit of a slow go early on. But all the signs appear that Hall is ready to rock and roll. And, if you're Dalvin Cook, you just sign already. Just sign a team. And, did the Jets see something they didn't like? Are the Jets scared off by the off-the-field settlement offer, $1 million settlement offer that Cook supposedly made to a woman, an ex-girlfriend that he allegedly assaulted? The Jets don't need that. They don't need that kind of distraction. They've already had enough distractions this summer with Hard Knocks, with the Sean Payton thing, calling out Nathaniel Hackett, which was complete Bush League bullshit. Sean Payton is a complete asshole. He really is. I'm sorry. He's got no class. You don't do that. Even in the high school level, and I coach high school football, you don't criticize another coach. It's just a no-no. You just don't do it. That's rule number 1 in the coaching fraternity. You don't publicly criticize another coach's ability. All right? You just don't do it. And Peyton, he just thinks he's all that. He's, Bounty Gate, all this other stuff. He's just not a class act. He's just not. He's the opposite of that. So a couple other things today. I talked about the Cooper Kupp thing. Go watch that video, so I won't rehash that. You can go see that video. Calvin Ridley has a toe injury, and this scared me a little bit. I've said this a million times. A toe injury for a football player is death. It is a terrible injury for a football player, especially a wideout and a running back, because your toe is your main point of contact with the field when you cut. Hell, when you just simply run. But when you cut, try to change the direction, it's all on the toe. And we've seen many, many cases of guys, entire season destroyed because of a toe injury, turf toe, sprained toe. Aaron Judge here in New York, he injured his toe hitting the concrete wall chasing a fly ball against the Dodgers 2 months ago. He's still hurt. He just came back from the DL, or the IL, whatever the hell you call it now. And he is still hurt. And he says he's going to be hurt the rest of the season. And it may never even be the same again, all from banging his toe on the concrete chasing a fly ball. Now, I'm not trying to compare the two sports, but running is running. Whether you're running after a fly ball in baseball or running in football. You need that big toe as your center of gravity to push off, cut, what have you. So this scares me a little bit with Calvin Ridley. Now, the team is downplaying. They're saying it has to do with his cleat. All right, we'll go there. We'll buy that for now. But Calvin Ridley is one of those guys, and it really kind of transitions into one of the features I wanted to talk about today is the guys that are really giving me the most trouble when it comes to fantasy football. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, how could you say that? You were all on Calvin Ridley this entire offseason, no doubt. 100%. And I still really like him a lot. But there's a couple of things now. One is that the ADP has come up. He's now into the third round. The end of the third round, Calvin Ridley is right now. Now, when we started in May, he was going in the fifth round. Slam dunk, no questions asked, you take him there. In the fourth round, all right, getting a little pricey, but slam dunk, take him. Now in the third round, I don't know. Now you have a toe injury. Now, there is a lot of competition. You have Christian Kirk, very capable. Zay Jones did some good things. It was a little up and down, but he did some good things overall for this team. Evan Ingram, coming off a career year. He's back. Travis Etienne, who's a good pass catcher, even though he hasn't exactly been utilized there. He's still here. So there's a lot, this is a passing offense for sure, but there's a lot of targets to go around. And then, I don't like to bring up this name, but Allen Robinson. There are some parallels here. Both guys, last year Robinson was 28. This year Calvin Ridley's 28. Both guys had a lot of hype. Fantasy football last year was Robinson going in the fourth round. And I took him there. Actually, I think I took him in the fifth round. But regardless, Calvin Ridley is now up into the third, fourth round range. We all know what happened with Allen Robinson. Went belly up. It was a complete abomination. As big of a bust as you could get last season. Not saying Calvin Ridley is going to be this. Now, Calvin Ridley has much more speed than Allen Robinson, but he's been away for a long time. He battled injuries before the suspension. He's now hurt again. There's a lot of competition. We don't know what kind of ability he is now. Nothing coming out of camp. It's been all positives coming out of camp. There's been no issue there. But I have to say, I'm a little scarred from the Allen Robinson thing last year. Am I making that same mistake again? So, ultimately, I don't think so. Right now, I'm still bullish on Ridley. I would love to get him in that fourth round. In the beginning of the third round, if he's there in that draft I was telling you about, I'm not taking him in the beginning of the third round. I'll take Chris Olave if he's there. But he is a puzzle for me. That's one of the guys I'm puzzled on. So, all right, so let me go through the rest of this. Like I said, there's guys that I have some reservations about. Now, Tony Pollard. Listen, I had him last year in one of my leagues. He was unbelievable. 5.2 a carry, 9 touchdowns on the ground, 3 through the air, 39 catches, 1,007 receiving yards, and he was in a timeshare with Ezekiel Elliott. He still had 9 touchdowns on the ground. Elliott had 12. So he got a decent amount of play. Even though he wasn't getting those, goal line carries, Pollard was making the most of his opportunities. But the issue I have with Pollard, who's going in the second round, you're still hearing whispers about them bringing back Elliott, possibly bringing in somebody else. There's been talk about not really upping the workload much more than it was last year. And let's face it, guys, he's only 6 foot 210 coming off a serious injury. He's a very slim back. Tony Pollard is almost in scat back territory in terms of his size. Now, there's nobody really behind him. Ronald Jones already been suspended the first 2 games of the season. Elliott's not there right now. But who's to say they don't bring somebody in? Can Pollard hold up under a full workload if he does get it? So I'm a little concerned about him. Now, like Ridley, I will cut the check. I'm even thinking about that right now. If I'm in that, at the end of the second round in that draft I was telling you about, Pollard's there, I'm really going to think long and hard about that over Jalen Waddle. But he's one of those guys I'm struggling with a little bit. As is Travis Etienne. I've spoken to you about Travis Etienne. Loved him early on, but the more I hear about the possible setup here. Doug Peterson loves committees. He's got Tank Bigsby, who everybody's raving about in camp as well. He's catching the ball out of the backfield, Bigsby. He's running with power. ETN, not great on short yardage duties last year. 5 rushing touchdowns. Not a lot. Did average 5.1 per carry. Very impressive. He's explosive. There's no doubt about it. But does Bigsby get the goal line carries? And for a third-round price, I don't want to draft a running back that's not going to get goal line carries. And then you look at the receptions. So 35 for 316. ETN was a tremendous receiver in college. Anybody that saw him can back me up on this. He was tremendous. Bigsby is also a very good receiver. Is he going to be used on third down, talking about Bigsby? Is he going to be the goal line back? So these are questions that now you have to think about that could undermine ETN. Top handcuff, no doubt about it. But he's one of those riddle guys for me. Right now in the third round, I'm a little more leery on ETN than I have been. All right. Who else? Let me look at the rest of the running backs. All right, Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't have any issue. In a PPR league, he's going to be great. He's going to catch 60 passes. He's going to rush for over 500 yards. He's going to be the definition of explosive. But even in college at Alabama, Gibbs was not used around the goal line. He just simply wasn't. He was not used as that kind of a player at Alabama. I don't think he's going to be used that way in Detroit. And all you have to look is the fact that they handed a 3-year contract at decent money for David Montgomery. So I think Montgomery is going to eat Jahmyr Gibbs. If you can get him in round 4, yes, I'm down. If in round 3, I'm a little nervous. I want as many touchdowns as I can get from all of my guys this season. What has undermined me in the past in fantasy football is drafting the PPR guys like Keenan Allen, guys who are catching a lot of passes but not scoring touchdowns. Keenan Allen's never scored a lot of touchdowns. Yet I've had him every year because you get seduced. Oh my God, all those catches. But he doesn't score. I want the touchdowns to go with the receptions as much as possible. So Jahmyr Gibbs, I think he's going to be really good, but he's not being used around the goal line. So he's somebody that I'm slightly struggling with, not too much. Javonte Williams, this is a recent struggle because he's going to be ready for week 1. I can't even believe he's going to be ready for week 1. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Just rapid comeback from this injury. It was a very serious injury for him. But he's going to be back for week 1. But Sean Payton brought in his guy, Samaje Perine. They're going to use him. He's gushed about Perine all offseason. How much are they going to use Williams early on? When Williams is fully healthy, like maybe October, if he's completely ready to go, is he going to have that burst? Probably not. Takes an extra year for the backs to come back from that kind of a surgery. So Javonte Williams is tough. Name brand, no doubt. He was an absolute stud before going down last year. Catching it, running back 1, star in the making before he went down. But now, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. And I think his ADP is going to continue to climb. All right, the Eagle running backs, both DeAndre Swift. How many catches is he going to have with a running quarterback? Rashad Penny. How many rushing touchdowns is he going to have with a running quarterback who likes to take it in around the end zone there? Jalen Hurts is going to take a lot of work. So those two guys are a little bit of a puzzle for me too. I wouldn't be drafting Penny because I'm a PPR guy. I do like Swift's game for PPR, but again, running quarterbacks, they don't throw to their running backs. They just don't. Look at Lamar Jackson. He's never thrown to his running backs. Jalen Hurts really hasn't done much of that either. Miles Sanders hardly caught anything the last few years after he burst out catching a bunch of passes as a rookie. All right. On to the receivers. DK Metcalf. I spoke about this yesterday. You already know how I feel, so check out that video. He's a little bit of a riddle for me. Much more than Tyler Lockett, because Tyler Lockett comes much, much more cheaper than Metcalf, who's going in the third round. If JSN, the rookie out of Ohio State, is going to be as good as everybody says he's going to be, he's going to siphon off the work from both of those guys, Lockett and Metcalf. And then you have a quarterback in Geno Smith who doesn't throw deep, which neuters Metcalf's game to a certain degree. So I'm not loving Metcalf right now. Not loving him. Who else? I'm already out on the Tampa Bay guys. We talked about Calvin Ridley. Christian Watson. All right, we got to talk about Christian Watson. Listen, this guy, unbelievable the second half last season. I picked him up off waivers. He carried me down the stretch into the playoffs before he did fade late. But he was an electric, unbelievable talent. 7 touchdowns, really in part-time duty, 41 catches, ridiculous 14.9 average. 6 led the NFL in yards, average yards after catch. He was fantastic. There's a split in the fantasy football community on him. A lot of pundits are saying, go all in on Christian Watson. For me, I'm on the opposite side. I'm pumping the brakes. I'm not seeking out Christian Watson. I'm not paying the 5th round price tag or the 6th round tag. I'm just not doing it. We don't know what Jordan Love is as a quarterback. They're probably going to be run heavy with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Romeo Doubs supposedly has this really good connection going with Jordan Love going back to minicamp. Watson's not a PPR guy. He's just not. He's A.J. Brown with Tennessee. That kind of a guy. So I'm leery of that of Christian Watson. I'm out on him right now. All right, so that's it for the wideouts. I did the running backs. All right, tight ends. I don't like Dallas Goedert as much as the others in the community do. Doesn't stay healthy. Doesn't score a lot of touchdowns. He's got 2 alpha wideouts ahead of him. Evan Ingram is a little bit of a puzzle to me. I'm fading him because of the competition. I really don't have a lot of concern at the tight end position, to be honest with you. I really don't. Dalton Kincaid slightly. Sean Payton brought in some guys. You never know what to feel about a Sean Payton offense. Mike Gesicki, I guess, is a little bit of a puzzle. You keep hearing, Bill O'Brien, they're going to use him heavily. And he's had some decent results prior to Mike McDaniel in Miami. He's had some decent results talking about Mike Gesicki. So he's a little bit interesting to me, but only as a backup. So I was asked, somebody had sent me an email, and you can send me emails, rangerfan28@yahoo.com, asking me how payouts should be handled in fantasy football leagues. What should payouts be? Well, listen, that's a hard question to answer. That was one of the emails I got. That's a hard question to answer because it depends what your buy-in is. I mean, listen, I've heard thousands of dollars for league entries to as little as 10, whatever. That's up to you. My philosophy has always been, if it's a 10-team league, the winner gets 80% of the pot. The runner-up at least doubles their money. So if you have a $50 entrance fee, they get $100. There's no third place consolation prize. So only 2 people get pay in terms of the finish. The other thing I like to do is every week of the regular season, the highest scoring team gets each week gets a payout. So let's say it's $10 a week, right? Each week you could win $10 if your team is the highest scoring. You got to break it down, whatever your entrance fee is, and just fractionally break it down from there. But I always found that it's doubly exciting when not only do you beat your opponent that week, but you claim top prize. All right. So, if you handily beat your opponent, but you're neck and neck with some other guys to be the top scorer that week, that's another thing that makes the week a little bit more exciting. If you want to get crazy too, I guess, I've been in leagues where the team that had the most points scored against them gets some kind of money because it's such bad luck and you can't predict it. It's random, right? But then there's, you shouldn't get money for non-performance because you're not earning that, which is true. But you could do that too just for shits and giggles. But yes, so first and second in a 10-team league. You could do first, second, third in a 12-team. But again, I think that the weekly top scoring team, that's a good thing. I think you need to have that. As far as playoff berths, that was another part of the same email questions. In a 10-team league, and I'm in a 10-team league, top 6 make the playoffs. Top 2 get a bye, which is exciting because you want that bye. The teams ranked 3 to 6 play in the wild card round, if you will, and then the final 4, and then the final. If you're in a 12-team league, you can do 8 teams. I think that's in a 10-team league, 6 teams seems right. But in a 12-team league, 8 out of 12, I don't know. I just feel like I know it's the same, almost the same. I mean, percentage-wise, 60% as opposed to, a little less than that. But you could do 8, you could do 6 in a 12-team league. I still say you stick to the 6 in a 12-team league. That's just my opinion. 66% of the teams make it. That's a little high. In a 10-team league, 60% of the teams, 12-team league, 66, that's a little high. So I think you stick with 50%, all right, 6 teams. So that's how I would look at it. But, listen, it's everybody's got their own thing. And then as far as the punishment, that's always fun. I've heard some of these things have gone viral over the years, like the guy who had to eat 100 chicken McNuggets. I mean, that's just brutal. Or the guy who had to go to the Waffle House and eat, a ridiculous amount of waffles over 24 hours. And the more he ate, in each hour could lessen the time. It was something like that. I don't remember the exact particulars of it. What I like to do is the last place team has to pay for the spread the next year. The hero, the beer, the drinks, whatever. I think that's a good thing. Yeah. So, I had spoken previously too about having leagues where the last team in is the highest scoring team left. It may not have the best record, but the highest scoring team left of the bottom 7. You could do that. Somebody has really bad luck, but they have a high-scoring team. I mean, that's what's so frustrating about fantasy football is when you have that team that's scoring great every week, but you're just running into bad matchups. I mean, that's what makes fantasy football a little bit of an issue. Another thing I'd like to do, by the way, is randomize the schedule after the first go-round. So in a 12-team league, I think what is it? We have 18 weeks, so 70. So after 14 weeks, you have a 14-week regular season, right? So in a 12-team league, you have 11 matchups. And then you're going to repeat the 12, 13, and 14 weeks, the guys you played the first, second, and third week. No, randomize week 12, 13, and 14. It's very rare. There is a possibility you could play a team 3 times, but minuscule. So I think that's the fairest way to do it because, it's not fair if you have to play the best team twice and somebody else plays them once. So I've always done it like that. Randomize the schedule after the first go round. That way it minimizes that because fantasy football is not a balanced game. Let's face it, because of the schedule, a lot of luck involved. You beat everybody else in your league except for your opponent. That's why the sleeper thing has become very popular. I don't like leagues that are strictly on my phone, which Sleeper is. It's an app. I still like going on the laptop, looking at my league. So the Sleeper, can you do that on your laptop? I've never used it. So if I'm wrong about that, I'm sorry. I think it's just an app, but I don't like that. I was hoping Yahoo's a little slow to change. I've only used Yahoo since playing fantasy football. They're a little bit slow to change. I think they need to add a little bit more options to their software there. But yeah, so those are just some of the tweaks that you could add to your league just to kind of spice it up. That's what I would do, in terms of payouts and things like that. But everybody's different, and that's what makes fantasy football great. Every league's different. Everyone has their own rules. So that's just how it goes. That's what makes it fun, I guess. All right, guys, so that's it for today with the podcast. Look for another podcast possibly tomorrow morning. Also, live stream tomorrow. Jump on with your questions. Get your questions ready to jump on tomorrow. I'm even thinking about doing I didn't even think of that. I might do a fantasy cast during the game. You know what? I think we're going to do that. I think we can do the fantasy cast for the Hall of Fame game. What do you guys think about that? Jets, Browns, jump on with your questions. We could chat. Whatever you want to talk about, let's do it. Fantasy cast tomorrow. Hit the notification button. I'll let you know when we're going to go on. All right, guys, I will see you all soon.